Hi, if you're new here, me too. So stick around. Watch me try and figure this out. White chicken enchiladas is one of our favorites. They're very meaty, and I think that's probably our favorite part. I love this little bag for warming up the corn tortillas. If you've ever worked with corn tortillas, you know they don't roll if they're not warm. This filling is made up of about 3 cups of shredded rotisserie chicken, 4 ounces of cream cheese, and some garlic and onion powder. You just mix that all up real good and fill your tortillas, whatever your preference is. Of course, I have corn for me and the other half, but the kids are eating flour tortillas. You'll see that in a little bit. But for now, we're just filling up these corn ones and fill that pan up all the way until you run out of space, I guess. I just continued rolling these up until I ran out of filling. Well, fortunately, I filled the pan too. So this is one of those things that even if we have leftovers that night, they never go to waste. Um, they get they reheat really nicely, and everybody in our family eats them really well, even leftover. I'll get calls from the kids. Are these my enchiladas in the fridge, or are they somebody else's? Or is it okay if I eat them because they're just sitting here? So I don't. It takes no time at all to make this up. And like I said, it doesn't go to waste in our house. And that's always a win when you're feeding a family, in my opinion, anyway. The original recipe calls for making a roux and a sauce. I wasn't really in the mood for that. Plus, I'm a big believer in using what you have. So I went ahead and used some of this jarred queso we already had open. Added in the cream of chicken soup, stirred that all together until it was nice and warm and combined. It was a little thick for my liking because you have to pour it over the enchiladas. So I did add some half and half. Normally I would have added milk, but again, I had this in my fridge and I wanted to get it used up. Plus, uh, my other half was at the store getting milk because we somehow managed to be without. So once you've got all of that all nice and warm and combined, like I said a little bit ago, um, you want to be able to pour it over your enchiladas. So that's what we're doing here is just pouring it over the enchiladas. That's kind of a preference. We like ours a little bit soggy, not really soggy, I guess, but uh, not dry either. These are the kids' flour tortillas. We all used to eat flour tortillas, but I've recently been working on making some changes to get away from wheat. Seems to not sit real great with me. So the kids aren't really on board with corn tortillas yet. So 2 pans it is. It's not that difficult for me, and I don't mind at all. They're all ready to go in the oven now. 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes. After that, you put them under the broiler for a few minutes to crisp up those edges. crisp up those edges. I love the crispy edges of this. And here's the finished product. That's Babe's plate. He starts with 2, but usually eats 3 or 4, but don't tell him I told you that. So I wasn't really sure what to call this one. Um, I'm sure it has a name somewhere, but it's just what sounded good this night. So we just whipped it up. If you're anything like me, when you don't feel good, you just want what sounds good. So that's kind of what this is. It kind of has a little bit of a green bean casserole um, flavors to it, some hamburger and some cream of mushroom soup over instant mashed potatoes. If you're anything like me, when you don't feel, Babe teases me all the time that his hands are going to be famous one of these days. This night, he agreed to brown the hamburger for me because I was just so worn out, having been sick for a couple of weeks. So he does the hard part, and I get to do all the flavor parts. Like I said, I wanted it to have kind of a green bean casserole flavors, and in my opinion, that means plenty of onion and some garlic powder. Don't forget that. You can't have green bean casserole flavor without cream of mushroom soup. So here we're adding that in. I love how he's using the edge of the can to scrape that off so that we get all of that in there. So we added a whole can of milk here. Like I said, I wanted it to have kind of a gravy consistency, so that's why the whole can of milk. And then some Worcestershire sauce. Here I am adding black pepper in. I almost forgot it. Sure glad I didn't. You can't really have green bean casserole flavors without the green beans. I recently learned to add the French style green beans. I love how they just kind of blend in with everything and aren't that big chunky bean. Now that everything's all mixed up, I wanted to take a second and show you this spoon, this utensil. When we bought it, it's called a spatula, part spoon, part spatula. It is Babe's favorite tool in the kitchen. This was so delicious. Well, the gravy stuff was delicious. I served it over instant mashed potatoes, which is normally fine, but this night they tasted a little off. So, not my favorite. So, this is the maiden voyage of my Dutch oven I got for Christmas. Now, I did lots of reading beforehand, and I learned that you never want to heat it dry. So, I heated my oil with my pan. Also, I learned that you have to heat it at a lower temperature than you think you're going to need because the enamel distributes the heat so well. So I did heat it nice and low and with oil in it. Gonna use that hot pan and that hot oil to sear off these chicken thighs that had been marinating in a teriyaki marinade. I did cheat and use the jar. Like I said in a couple of other parts of the video, we were all pretty sick in our house this week, so I was taking some shortcuts where I could get them. just searing them off about 4 to 5 minutes on each side, just to help give it depth of flavor. I did end up having to do this in 2 separate batches. I was stressing about whether they were going to stick to the bottom of my new pan, like I've seen happen with so many other cooks. But it did stick a little bit, but it turned out to be okay. I was able to deglaze it just fine. I did end up, so I deglazed that pan with pineapple juice, so because I wanted those flavors together with the teriyaki. Turns out my family was not a huge fan of the fact that I chose to add pineapple to this dish. The recipe doesn't call for it, so they forgave me. But so here's footage of me adding the minced onion, but where I added the garlic is missing altogether. Teriyaki chicken and rice. Must add rice. So here I am adding about a cup and a half's worth of rice, stirring that around in all the other juices and flavors that are already in that pan so that it can absorb all of those yummy bits that are sitting in there already. Here, we're adding some more pineapple juice. Just one more thing my family has to forgive me for. Oh, but don't worry, it's gonna get worse here in a few seconds. Like I said, they did forgive me. They just didn't like it very much when I did it. All jokes aside, though, I did make a little bit of a mistake when I initially made this. I didn't use the equation for rice that works for me. 3, 2, 1 is my rule. 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of liquid gets me 3 cups of finished rice. However, I followed the recipe, and I'm not sure if I cooked down my sauce too much at first or what happened exactly, but I did end up a little light in liquid, even though I did add water and bouillon and marinade. Here's some more pineapple. Actual chunks of pineapple went in here. Yeah, they were not happy with me. Lucky for me, I'm a pretty good cook most of the time. They tell me so on a regular basis. So they let me slide once in a while when I try something new that they don't really love. To be fair though, my son and I really liked it. It was the other two that didn't really care for it. That's okay. They lived. We're gonna add all that chicken back in here. All the drippings off the pan, off the pan. Oh my goodness! All those good things back into this pan. Make sure that rice is submerged in the liquid. And like I said, make sure you get the right amount of liquid. That way you don't have to put yours back in like I had to do. Put that lid on. We'll pop it in the oven. And by we, I mean Babe will put it in the oven because it was heavy and I was weak this day. And when it came out, I had to put more liquid in and put it back in and cook it longer. So don't do that. Well, this is what happens when you want twice baked potatoes, but you don't have the energy for twice baked potatoes. So you make twice baked potato casserole, I guess. That's what we're going to call it anyway. I know you know how to cut potatoes, or I think you do. So put your potatoes in a pot with just enough water to cover them up. Now, here's a trick my niece actually taught me. So we're going to flavor that water that we cook the potatoes in. Maybe you already knew that, but it was new for me. Yes, I know. I could mix my potatoes with my hand mixer, but I wanted them chunky like this. When we're mashing those potatoes, we're going to add all those same seasonings again. I like to add oregano in mine. It says oregano leaves, but I crushed them up so they flavor better. Now's the good stuff. Bacon, cream cheese, milk, yum. And we're going to mix in cheddar cheese, about a cup's worth. And we're going to into a 9 by 13 baking dish. I stabbed holes in it so that it would get the cheese down in there. Now here it is, all melty and gooey and full of good flavor. And I served it with ham and green bean casserole.